Welcome to ICEF Monitor. I'm here with Jan Kapper from IALC and from GAELA. How do your roles differ in these two organizations?
Well, for IALC, I'm an employee. I'm the executive director. I look after the association's office, and that means taking responsibility for marketing, membership, and quality assurance chiefly. GAELA is a voluntary role that I have. I'm the co-convener along with Gonzalo Pereira from Languages Canada. GAELA is an alliance of the associations and accreditations and networks of language schools around the world. And as co-conveners, we basically organise the group's meetings and activities and communications.
So English has always been the number one language, but can you tell me a little bit about the demand of other languages, maybe such as Mandarin or Arabic?
Yes, well, taking Mandarin, for example, with China now being the second largest economy in the world and the fastest growing major economy, there's been a big increase in demand for Chinese. And in fact, some of the big international companies in China now would rather have fluency in Mandarin than an MBA from graduates entering their company. Also in the UK, for example, there's been a 20% increase in the teaching of Chinese in the public schools because of the obviously projected importance of that language in the future in the global economy. Essentially, in a global economy, people are going to have to be communicating with more and more other countries and other markets, and English will not be the common language of most of them. It is a lingua franca, but surprisingly, 75% of the world's population actually don't speak English. If you want really good relationships with your trading partners in other countries, the way to achieve that is to speak their language as well. It just gives you the edge.
So, John, what are the advantages for a student to learn another language or to choose in between two languages, let's say Mandarin and Portuguese?
Yes, that's a good question. One of the reasons they might choose one or the other is geography. If they are, for example, there's a lot of international trade across borders, directly across borders. About 25% of trade is actually with neighbouring countries. So for anyone who is interested in trading with Brazil, which of course is a very important economy and the engine of growth for Latin America, then Portuguese would be a logical choice. Another reason you might choose one language rather than another would be the career that you want. Someone who wants a career in international relations will find that French is very helpful there because it's an official language of so many of the NGOs and the international governmental bodies. Someone wanting a career in science and engineering might tend more towards German because it's an important language in those fields. So it can be geography, it can be the career you want. It can sometimes be a family link. You know, there are people who are living as third generation in some countries whose families want them to keep a connection with the country that the family originated from, and so they might learn that language because it's part of their heritage. So that's also a reason why people choose a certain language rather than another one.
What reasons do agents play in that decision-making process, or do you encourage them to help the student to choose one language over the other?
I think it's, as with all of the advice that agents give, it really depends. Sometimes the students or the parents even would have a very clear idea of what they wanted, but in other cases they would not be sure. And then you need to find out what the students' ambitions are, what their plans are, what kind of career they want, what their interests are, and from that you could advise them, which way to go. In the end, it's partly down to their choice, and they have opportunities with all languages, and simply having that second foreign language in addition to English can help to increase their salary when they're finally employed, when they finally embark on their career, and to give them the edge when they're competing for jobs because they have two foreign languages rather than just one.
Can you give me some case studies or some examples of students who choose a foreign language and how the outcome was?
Yes, some interesting case studies that we've looked at are for students learning Russian. And there were 3 examples, and they were all very different. They illustrate different reasons why students would learn a language like Russian. One of the students is from Korea, and he already speaks English, and his company trades with Russian-speaking countries. And the reason that he decided to learn Russian was because he believed he could improve business if he spoke Russian. He can do business speaking English, but he thinks he can do it better if he really understands the language and the culture. So that was his reason. A French student who's studying at the same language school is learning Russian because he works for a hotel in France, and the hotel has a lot of Russian clients. And so for him to be able to communicate with these Russian clients and bring in more Russian clients, it's useful for him to be able to speak Russian. And the third example is a German who was working in the government in Germany, in a civil service job in Germany, wanted to work internationally, started learning Russian while still working in Germany, and is now the economic attaché to the Moscow embassy. So it helped him to get the job he wanted.
So for an agent who has been marketing English, how can they market other languages, or what advice can you give them?
Well, first of all, I'd say look at demand. And it's in some cases you're getting inquiries that at the moment you're turning down because you think, well, we don't do that. Are those inquiries increasing? Are there enough of them to warrant actually working out, learning how to market those languages? Because there are opportunities. It's an opportunity to add something to your portfolio. And then I would say that the actual cost of entry is not that great because the agents already have the marketing channels. It's not so different. If you're advertising, in magazines or newspapers or online and you're talking about learning English, you can say other languages available, or, we've just introduced Chinese or French. And your staff actually have the skills already. It's just a case of learning the differences with this language versus English, and the booking systems are all the same. And of course also the language schools exist in these other countries doing exactly the same things that the English language schools do. They give the same advice, they have the same range of programs, they do examinations, they have homestays. So it's all very similar, in fact. It's a case of establishing whether there's enough demand and then feeling confident to actually take that step.
So more and more people are speaking English. Let's talk about the prospects for the other languages.
Yeah, I think on the whole they're good. With increasing globalization, there's simply more and more need to be able to speak and communicate with people in other countries who speak other languages. And I think that as more and more people also speak English and learn English, to have that second foreign language just gives you the competitive edge. It's an opportunity, and it's something that can work out very positively for people who put the work in to do it.
Most definitely. Thank you so much for coming, John.
Thank you. Thanks very much.